Hey there guys, welcome back to Community Starcraft 2. Today we're going to take a look at Protoss scouting and Protoss versus Terran. I'm going to run you through a lot of situations that you might run across and let you know how you should be reacting to the information that you get. And in terms of scouting, for those of you that are not really familiar with scouting as a whole, I know you might see a lot of other players do it, but I've seen a lot of players that will actually scout and not really know what they're looking for. So essentially what you're going to do with your scouting is you're going to figure out where your opponent is first, and you're going to determine what they're doing based upon the first few buildings that you see and the timings that you see from them as well. This is one thing that the player does not do on this particular replay, is scout as soon as they put their pylon down. I believe they're going to scout as soon as they put their gateway down, but a pylon scout is the most safe way to scout. It's going to get you the most information, and it'll usually assure that your probe is going to get in there before the Terran player is going to wall off, so that you're going to get as much information as possible with that initial scout. So we're going to wait and see for this player to pull a probe to send them over there. Again, I'm expecting them to pull it as soon as they put their gateway down, and it looks like this is what this probe's going to do. One other thing about scouting is that you need to know your maps. Know where your opponents can spawn. They cannot spawn here, which is the close by ground position on Shakura's plateau. Instead, they'll spawn in the close by air or the cross position. So usually just want to send your probe over to the closest position that they could spawn in, and then the furthest, just so that you can hopefully get in there before they might do a really fast wall off. But that usually won't happen if you're scouting on your pylon like you should be. So I'm going to run you through what this probe's going to see. It's going to get up to this ramp, it's going to see a barracks coming down, and this is very normal timing. Terrans will usually start their barracks at about 12 supply. So you can usually monitor your own supply and see where it is in comparison to the Terrans. The Terrans' barracks will finish at about 15 if they started on a normal time, or 16 for yours, since you should be a probe ahead for just a little bit, since you can chrono boost your Nexus early. So those are just basic timings of when everything should finish. Once you're going to get in here, you're going to scout around their base in the dark space, hopefully. You're going to look around for any extra barracks that might be coming up, and you're also going to check on the status of their gas. So I'll show you what the read this player gets, and this player is, I believe their name is Angel Girl Prime. I'm not sure if it was a former member or a new member of the Prime clan over in Korea, but they're fighting a player named Nex Excrement, who is that's Slayer, or not Slayers, it's Xenex Beyond in the GSL. So I think this is sort of like a training game or practice game or something. But anyway, this probe gets in here, it sees that there's no gas that's even up yet. It wants to check on the timing of this command center turning into an orbital command. If a Terran is not putting down any extra barracks, their orbital command should start as soon as their first barracks is done. So you want to run around with this probe, make sure you get as much information as possible, and right here you can see the orbital command actually transforming. So that means that this barracks is the only one that they've built, only because that's all the minerals allow. If their barracks starts making a marine, which you can see it lighting up here, and this has not transformed right after that has started, then that's a big cause for alarm. You want to check around the dark space in their base, check around your own base, make sure they're not doing any proxy barracks or anything weird like that, and then you can move on. So we're just going to go ahead and play here, and I'll explain what this scouting information means. One barracks with no gas. That almost always means either a quick marine push as soon as they push your scout out, which is a little unusual. It's more likely in the lower leagues, but typically if you see this in, like, I'd say even gold and up, it's usually going to mean a gasless expand. But you're going to get more scouting information a little bit later as you start to produce off of this gateway. You can see the gateway is rallied over to the natural for the opponent, and he's going to, this Protoss player anyway, is going to scout with their first 2 units out of that gateway. So we'll fast forward up until that comes up. We can see here there's also a enemy scout inside the Protoss base, which you'll want to deny with your Stalker as soon as it comes out. But once this Stalker heads over there, they're going to run up and they're going to get scouting information with these units, and you usually do not want to lose these units if you can help it. They're just going to run up there, they're going to see what units are at the top of the ramp, and what you're going to want to look for is to see if they have any Marauders in the mixture, and if they do have Marauders, that's usually going to mean that they're going to go into a sort of mass bio style, which is very common in this matchup. If you're going to see an expansion coming down, which if they're expanding on this map, they'll usually start their expansion right here, or if you're going to see tech coming up, which is kind of unlikely since they didn't get any gas, so their tech is going to be kind of late. So poke up there, see what you see. We're going to see what we actually see with this scout. And here we go, they just see nothing but Marines, and they see a command center started over here. Now I'm going to run you through a situation that I'm not sure is going to come up in any of the other replays that I have planned, and that is if you see them getting gas early in the game, or especially if you see them getting 2 gases, and if they put a bunker down to their front door when your 2 units arrive, that's going to mean that they're going for some kind of tech behind it. It's almost always Banshees. So that's kind of the overview of what kind of scouting information you're going to want to be looking out for. If you see this gasless Marine expand, you can react to it pretty much however you want. You can expand yourself. You can put some more pressure on later since they won't have a lot of units out. And Marines in particular, especially by themselves, don't do very well against Protoss gateway units early in the game. So that's basically the scouting information that this player retrieved. You will want to scout later in the game, which I'll bring up in another replay. So we'll jump into another game so that we can get more scouting reads, and I'll show you guys how to react to all that stuff and what it actually means and what you should be doing to react. So again, if you see no gas, only 1 barracks, orbital command on time, that's going to mean usually either a Marine rush or just a gasless expand, and your first 2 units from your gateway is going to figure out what that exactly is. So we'll jump into the next part of the video. Okay, we're going to jump into this next game here, and I'll go ahead and start it up. We're going to see the pylon has already started for this Protoss player, and they have not scouted yet. Let me turn on just the Protoss vision so that we can see exactly what they see as it's revealed. They're going to also gateway scout, which you can do if you want to, but I personally just like the information early. I pylon scout in every matchup, so I would recommend that, especially if you're first starting out, so you can get the information that you need. Okay, so the probe's arriving. They're checking around inside the base. They do figure out that it is close by air, so a lot of this is going to dictate your build from here on out, and this is going to be a little bit more advanced scouting information and the kind of assumptions that you might need to make. If you see positions like this, that means that your Terran counterpart may go for fast Banshees or fast drop play. So that's something to look out for. Make sure that you provide coverage of your base so that you can see drops unloading, or even float some observers between your 2 bases so that you can see exactly what's coming before it actually hits. So that's another thing you should be considering, is what position your opponent is spawning in relation to you. So what this probe's going to see is a little different than last time. He's going to see 1 barracks and a gas, and this is more normal stuff that you're going to see. You'll see this in almost every game against Terran. So we're going to go ahead and proceed. So this probe's going to get in here. He's going to be a little bit annoying. We'll fast forward through all this stuff. So the gas goes up. They're at about the supply times of 16, which means that the barracks should be finishing up, which it is. That means his barracks was on a normal timing, so he's not doing anything sneaky. And then you want to see if this orbital command is transforming right as soon as the barracks is done. So barracks finishes, and this probe is just dancing around, messing with that SCV, as we can see here. But he does not get that scouting information, at least not yet. So he's going to go ahead and leave, and he doesn't know if this orbital command is transforming right now. I think what he actually did is he took a look at the SCV count to make sure that it made sense. Made sure that he actually had the number of SCVs he would be expecting by this time in the game. Because if you don't see as many SCVs here, that's also another tell that they're hiding some other barracks somewhere, whether it's in their base or like proxying it outside of yours right here or something like that. So that's another scouting way you can look at, but I think it's a little easier to just stick around and wait for that barracks to finish and look to see if this orbital command is transforming as soon as the barracks is done. So we'll go ahead and press forward here. Now what this Protoss player is going to do is he left the base, and what Terran's responsibility is they'll put out a Marine on this barracks. This Marine's job is to kill this probe. So what this player actually did is he walked out of the base, made the Terran player forget about the scout, thinking, oh well, he already left, I don't really need to worry that much about it, and then he snuck his probe back in. So your probe is actually faster, and if the Marine is just standing in one spot, your probe should be able to get by him and back into the base. So this is great scouting information as far as what this probe is now going to see. This probe was not meant to see that the orbital command is done. There's a second barracks on the way, and there's a reactor going down on this first barracks. What this is going to mean typically is a 2 barracks expand. They're going to put on a little bit of pressure with about 2 Marauders and maybe 7 Marines or somewhere in that mixture. It depends on how they run the build. So you're going to have, this is going to basically tell you what their plan is up until about 7 minutes into the game. So this is a really good scout. So if you can do stuff like this to trick your opponent, get your probe back in here, scout as much dark space as you possibly can to assure that they're not hiding like a 3rd barracks over here, since that can happen. And yeah, that'll give you a lot of great information. You can also see that he did not see the second gas. They did not take the second gas because they're not going to be going for fast tech on one base. They're just going to go for this 2 barracks, 1 gas. It's going to be a Marauder Marine push into a quick expansion. So we're actually going to watch this game develop a little bit, because there is another point that I want to make from this replay. So he has great scouting information right now. He's pretty safe to expand, and if the opponent is going to be on 2 barracks, he needs to be on 2 to 3 gateways, which he's going to be on right now, so that he can actually fend that pressure off without taking too many losses. So we're going to go ahead and press forward here and get into another stage of the game where this is actually pretty important. And he puts out this Stalker. Typically with this Stalker, or the first couple of units out of your gateways, like I was talking about before, you will want to go up to their ramp and poke up there. But he doesn't need to do that now because he knows what's going on. Now he sees this push coming across because he's holding the watchtower. So this is another very key point of scouting, is holding the watchtower so you know exactly what's going to be coming your way before it even arrives at your base. So you can see this is a 2 Marauder and 7 Marines, just like I guessed off of that, and 6 SCVs are being pulled. So this is a pretty big push. He may want to actually run his probes away to defend this. He needs to chrono boost his gateway so he can get units out as fast as possible. So now you know exactly what you need to deal with this, and he's got about maybe 20 seconds to react before that force is at his door attacking him. So only because he got that probe back in there and because he was able to hold the watchtower, now he knows exactly what's coming. Whereas if he didn't scout and he just went for something typical, he could have expanded and been like, oh, whatever, I don't really care what my opponent's doing. And his forces could arrive and just kill you right then. So it's very good to scout, and this is a shining example of a great way to get scouting intel. So we're going to move on to 1 or 2 more games, depending on what I can dig around in these replays that actually has good information in it. So I will join you in just a moment.